Hi everybody, this is Sara Chapman and this is a research project on Norman Rockwell. So this project is relevant to the class because Norman Rockwell was a 20th century artist and illustrator. He's famous for his exaggerating storytelling style as part of the regionalist art movement. And his illustrations became really popular, especially during the World Wars and the Great Depression. And so for this project, I spent about 3 to 4 hours of research and then put together this presentation on his life and works. So a little bit about his early life. He was born in 1894 in New York. His experience growing up was a lot different than some of the scenes that he would be really iconic for painting later on, because his family moved around a lot. His mom had some health issues. He wasn't super good at sports, and he didn't have a lot of time to play outside. But he was able to get a little bit of inspiration at the countryside on summer vacations, which became a particular fascination for him. He learned to draw alongside his father, who was a textile maker, and they both copied illustrations out of magazines, and Norman ended up creating his own illustrations while his father read Charles Dickens to the family, and so he would kind of create some narratives with pictures as he listened to those stories. As a teenager, he attended art school, and then he was commissioned to start painting Christmas cards. And then in 1913, he had his kind of first big break. He became the director of art for the Boy's Life magazine. And then, due to his rising potential and his increased earnings, he was able to contribute to his family moving back to New Rochelle, where he was able to better continue his training and then network to future fame. So then his career, he's really known mostly for his cover illustrations for the Saturday Evening Post. His first one was published with them in 1916, and then from there it started a career with them that spanned roughly 50 years, and he ended up painting 322 covers for them throughout that time. And through those commissions with them, he just became a household name in America, became super duper popular, super iconic, and he was able to inspire a lot of people to participate politically, to support war efforts and things like that. He especially specialized in illustrating children, small town scenes, and then he was really known for exaggerating posing and facial expressions. And he especially loved using like the archetype of a tall, lean model that he was able to bend into these poses. And then in 1939, he moved his family, his wife and his kids, to Arlington, Vermont, which was kind of the idyllic countryside that he had always longed for. And then it became further inspiration for his art, especially in his famous Four Freedoms. Okay, and then just a little bit about his late life. By the end of like that 50-year career with the Post, Rockwell felt a little bit like his potential wasn't being fully realized, and so he wanted to try some different things. He ended up moving his family once again, and he cut ties with the Post eventually. And he started focusing some time on some projects for the Look magazine, which a lot of those were very progressive, kind of activist paintings. And that does include another famous painting of his, The Problem We All Live With. It's that Ruby Bridges one. And he also spent some time writing his autobiography alongside his son. It's called My Adventures as an Illustrator. And its cover features his famous triple self-portrait, which we see over here. His natural skill began to fail him as he aged, and he ended up passing away in 1978. But he did leave behind a tremendous legacy and influence on illustration and just the American public, with really a massive cult following still, who just fell in love with the picture of the American dream that he was able to capture. And so here are just a few of his really important works, kind of starting over here, the earliest to some of the later ones. So we have all 4 of those illustrations for the 4 freedoms. We can see freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. These were super influential. And then this is a really fun little collection that he did. He kind of created this character of Willie Gillis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he's kind of a lot of girls kind of fanned over him because he was kind of a hottie. But he was this character that went off to war. He was drafted, and then he was able to eventually come back. This is kind of at the end of World War II when he's back home, and the public was able to kind of follow his journey through the war, and it gave hope to a lot of people who had loved ones that were serving or something like that. This is just an example of some of the more progressive work that he was able to do later on. This is called The Golden Rule, and it's really cool how he was able to just use like all these different kinds of people, bring them together, but not in a like cartoony way that I think is what you see normally before this. And so just kind of giving them a lot of authenticity. And then this is another famous illustration by him, The Problem We All Live With. that he did for the Look magazine. And so we see little ruby bridges here, and this ended up being influential in the moment, and then obviously a really famous painting still today. And then these are just some of the later works, and it's kind of cool to get some perspective of all the history that he lived through. Like this is the idea of a moon landing that he was able to, I think he worked with like NASA specifically in a simulation to get the models and the environment right, which I thought was really cool. And then, yeah, here are my works cited. Thank you guys so much for watching.